Hey, how's it going? Today I'm talking about dopey fueling.
This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for injury-prone RunDisney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong without feeling broken or held together with KT tape as they cross the finish line.
Okay, so it's race week or you are preparing for it. So let's talk about how to eat while you're on the run on your 48.6 mile journey for RunDisney. When you are fueling, and I'm talking intra-run fueling, okay? That means during the race. This is not carb loading. If you want to know more about carb loading, I did an episode of that a few episodes back. I will link it in the show notes. Go ahead and take a peek at that. But right now I'm talking about in the run. So with Dopey, you're doing the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, and the full marathon. Normally, you may not fuel for a 5K or a 10K because they typically don't follow the hour-long rule and exerting that much effort for you to think about fueling during those races. However, when you are doing 48.6 miles over the course of 4 days, you actually do need to fuel during the 5K and the 10K, not just the half marathon and the full marathon. And that's because fueling during those races are helping your future self. They're not necessarily helping your current self. And that goes with all fueling. When you're fueling, you're not helping your current self, you are helping your future self. So either 20 minutes from now or 3 days from now, you are helping your future self. Now, I should clarify, when you're doing training runs, the fuel that you're having during the run, that is helping you in that run. You are not storing that and keeping that for days and days and days. So you are still helping your future self, but it's like 20 minutes from now you. So if Dr. Allie eats something at 9:15 in the morning on a run, she is helping herself for 9:45 Dr. Allie. She is not helping herself way later in the day. That fuel will be used during that run. However, when it comes to Dopey, you want to fuel during the 5K and the 10K because you are carb loading for the half marathon and the full marathon, and you don't want to use those glycogen stores for the 5K and the 10K, so to speak. Now, of course, you can't delineate, you can't designate where different carbs and glycogen are going and exactly when they're being used, but your body's more likely to use sugar, use glucose that it just had, than go into the muscle stores. The muscle stores are for when it doesn't have quick uptake, it doesn't already have sugar in your bloodstream. You are fueling for your 5K and your 10K to help your half marathon and your full marathon self. Okay, so your body, you want to keep those glycogen stores that you are storing up with your carb load, you want to keep those for the full marathon. So that means so that you don't use those glycogen stores during the 5K and the 10K, that means you need to be taking in fuel during that time. The general rule is you want 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour you're out there on the course. Now, when we do RunDisney races, we start so early. I mean, I know runners that are waking up at 2 a.m. to be able to get on the first bus so that they get to the front of their corral so that they have a bigger buffer between them and the balloon ladies. So you may be on that first bus and getting to the corrals when they open. You could be sitting around for 2 hours before you actually get the green light to start your race. So if that's the case for the 5K, let's think about it instead of how much time we're out on the course, think about it how much time we're out there, okay? So if you're there for 2 hours and then the 5K for you, let's say it takes 45 minutes. Maybe it will take an hour if you stop and do some character stops, because The 5K is technically untimed. Now, they will start moving people along, but the rule is that as long as you're moving, as long as you're making forward progress, they're okay with you at whatever pace you're going, as long as they see that you're making forward progress. So get your character photos, take your time, make it leisurely, but take in some carbs between corral and family reunion time. So if you are out there, let's look at the whole thing. Let's say it's 3 hours. Well, let's take in 60 grams of carbs per hour that you're out there. So that is going to be 60 times 3 is 180. 180 grams of carbs while you're out there for the 5K. Now, some of those are going to be stored and count toward your carb load because you're not necessarily going to use all of those on the 5K. So that goes towards your carb loading for the day. Same thing for the 10K. If you're doing Dopey and you have a knee pain or are prone to injury, I do recommend walking the 10K as well. Now, 10K is timed, so you do have to keep that 16-minute per mile based on the last person who crosses the start line, otherwise known as the balloon ladies. They keep the pace, but you just have to stay ahead of them or with them, and they will keep you moving along. But walk it. Save your energy for the half marathon or the full marathon. While you're out there on the 10K, if you are walking a 16-minute per mile, let's do a little bit of math. 16 times 6.2, that's going to be 99.2 minutes. So that is just over an hour and a half. You're about an hour and 40 minutes. So 60 grams per hour that you're out there, that definitely falls in that category. I would be out there taking in carbs in general, that I would be doing that if that was my pace. Now let's look at how long we're in the corral for. Let's say we are there for 2 hours. Now it's 2 hours plus an hour, 40 minutes. Now we're 3 hours, 40 minutes. And then finish your shoot, family reunion area, let's say it's 4 hours at this point. Now let's look at the half marathon. Same thing. If you're doing a 16-minute per mile, that comes out to be about 3.5 hours. Plus 2 hours of corral time, that's 5.5 hours. Let's just round it up to 6 hours. Let's say we're in the family reunion area for half an hour. That's 6 hours. Now it's 60 to 90 grams of carbs. Everybody's a little bit different. If you tend to need on the higher end of that, go on the higher end of that. But that is a lower number, okay? 60 grams per hour is the low end of that range. Then the marathon. We are looking, let's say you are a 7-hour marathoner times 60 grams. That's 420 grams of carbs at least during your marathon. Now let's add in 2 hours pre-race because we're in the corral for 2 hours. Let's add on another hour in the family reunion area. Okay, so how do we actually do this? What does that fueling look like? Now, of course, you can use goo, gel, honey stinger chews, honey stinger waffles. You can also have regular food. So I recommend get the biggest bang for your buck based on what you like to eat. So based on things that my clients like to eat, I have started a spreadsheet of how many grams of carbs per pouch, per unit food items have. So liquid IV, for example, one tube, so to speak, of liquid IV is 10 grams of carbs. So for me, typically, I do half of one of those pouches of liquid IV per 14-ounce water bottle that I have. During a race, I'm just going to make it more sugary than I typically like it, and I'll do a whole thing. Every time I fill up my water, I add in one whole packet of liquid IV. That's 10 grams of carbs. A banana is about 15 grams of carbs, a standard size banana. Gummy bears, Black Forest gummy bears per pouch, 11 grams of carbs. Honey Stinger waffle, 21 grams of carbs. Honey Stinger chew per pack, 39 grams of carbs. A clifbloks has 24 grams per 3 pieces. So 48 grams per pack, because I've learned that there are 6 little blocks per pouch. So depending on what you like, mix it up. Save something really good for the real hard mile. So at the marathon, save something for 16 miles. 20 miles is a big one, hitting that 20-mile mark. And then I do recommend that 24-mile mark to give you the last good push. Those are some major milestones during the marathon. But every hour, I recommend doing it based on time, not mileage, because if you have a slower mile or a faster mile, your carb intake is going to be off. So do it based on timing. I recommend, and this is what I do, every 20 minutes you take in 20 more grams, because then that gets you to 60 grams per hour. Every 20 minutes, take something in and make it 20 grams of carbs. So that could be every 20 minutes, you have a Honey Stinger waffle. Let that sink in. Every 20 minutes, have one Honey Stinger waffle. You are probably thinking, that's a lot of food. Yes, that is a lot of food. You are going to feel like you are constantly eating. And that's why I recommend mixing it up between hydration and food, and mixing up the food that you have. I have one client who she just uses peanut butter pretzels, and that's all she wants to have during her run. Great, perfect. I like to mix it up a little bit. I do liquid IV, and I do a very specific flavor, and I can only have that flavor when I'm running. So out on a training run, it's strawberry lemonade for anybody who wants to know. That's the only time I can have strawberry lemonade liquid IV. I save it. I don't drink it outside of running. And then I also do Black Forest gummy bears, or I use Swedish fish. I have recently found sour punch straws. Those may be good. Hopefully they're not too sour. Ooh, even just saying that, my glands just, you get that pinch in your jaw. Just thinking about the sour, but I love them. So that might be a treat. I had somebody who was telling me cosmic brownies have like 40 grams of carbs. That sounds like a delicious treat on the marathon. Find what works for you and mix it up. Mix it up between the hydration you're having and the food you're eating. And we tend to underestimate how many grams of carbs are in the item. So really check it out. I use MyFitnessPal. It's free. You can look up how many grams of carbs you are actually having in a serving per ounce. If it's, a Powerade or a Gatorade. You can even have flat, full sugar soda. I learned this, oh gosh, it's probably been 10 years. 10 years ago, I learned it. My husband used to do triathlons, and on the courses for the half Ironmans, they used to have flat Coke. And they had that because there's so much sugar in soda, but you don't want the carbs. You don't want the carbonation. You want the carbs. You want the sugar. You don't want the carbonation. So they would shake up the soda ahead of time, and they would open it, make it go flat, or open it overnight, make it go flat. That's another way to get in quick sugar on race day during the race. Mix it up with hydration, mix it up with what you're eating, because you're going to feel like you're constantly eating. You're going to feel like a pack mule where you just have all of this food running over you. And so another thing you can do to make it so that you don't have to carry as much, practice with the things that are going to be on the course. So Disney does Powerade, they do water, and they do sport beans. So the sport beans, I do believe, have caffeine in them, the ones that they use. But you could practice with those and see if those work for you. Now, granted, at the marathon and the half marathon, there are only 1 or 2 stops that include food. You're going to need food before you hit those stops, but they do have that there for you. But I do recommend practicing with the types of food that they have on the course. But Powerade, they have those at water stops. They also have regular water. You can wear a hydration vest. Disney allows that. And you can fill your hydration vest with your liquid IV, your scratch, your drip drop, your exact, whatever it is you're using to give you more carbs, more fuel. Now, of course, you also need electrolytes. So look at the hydration that has electrolytes in it, your sodium, your magnesium, all of the different kinds of things. I'm not a registered dietitian, so I'm not going to go into exactly all of the vitamins and minerals, electrolytes that you need in the hydration. You can Google that. You can look that up online. But know that those items or salt tabs, things like that, make sure that you're not just drinking pure water. Get in some electrolytes, get in your carbs. Okay, that's it for Dopey fueling. Let me know what you thought of this episode.
Hey, can I ask a quick favor? If you're enjoying this podcast, would you take 20 seconds to leave a rating and review? Leaving a rating and a review helps other runners find this podcast because the platform you're listening to this on will start suggesting it to runners like you. All it takes is 20 seconds. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. As always, thanks so much for listening. That's all for now. Talk to you soon.